Yep, they can hear us now.
You can hear us now.
All right, so
Oh,
you ready? You
oh.
ready? You ready? You ready?
Yeah,
All
just
right.
fucking start it.
Jeez, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, the camera. What happened to the camera? Keep going. So
So,
today
so,
we're gonna
so,
do
so.
something a little bit different. This is the after the ride we did. Everybody hates Mondays. Excuse me. And that was more of a impromptu conversation piece. But now we're gonna be talking about beginner motorcycles and what is a beginner motorcycle. And then after that, we're gonna open it up to chatting with the chat. So if you're in here watching this after the live stream, then you're not gonna be able to chat with us because it's not live for
Did you
you.
open this window?
I did. I opened this window
Why?
because it's hot. Jeez, whatever. So we got 5 people in here. We're gonna be chit chatting. Amanda, can you help us out real quick?
Yeah.
Can you move the camera towards me, just like a tad hair? Yeah, the whole tripod. Just the whole tripod. That's good. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So beginner motorcycles. This is a big question that I get a lot on my channel, and then I seen a few since I helped moderate your channel. I saw a few of those. Like, is the Scout like a good beginner motorcycle? And I keep hearing that from other people. And for me personally, I keep telling people this is my idea of what a beginner motorcycle is that it's basically any motorcycle that you fit and are comfortable on. And I don't care too much about the CCs unless it's like a Hayabusa or some crap like that. But for me personally, I don't care too much about the CCs. I care more about the person, since that is the one thing you have control over. So the person, if they control the throttle and clutch and all that stuff, I don't really care about the CCs. Some people are saying 300, start on 300, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your reasoning behind it, if they're comfortable on it, they could literally. I mean, that means they could be comfortable on any bike. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of difficult to pin down. It depends on what kind of bike. So like cruisers and V twins and single cylinders and stuff like that. I mean, you can be on a higher displacement motorcycle and it'd still be a beginner bike.
Yeah.
But if you bought like a 600, like if you bought an R6,
Yeah.
like that can kill you, really quickly.
So there's really a difference in the CCs don't really matter. It's more like the engine configuration then.
Yeah, so I mean your R6 or your like Ninja 600s and those sport bikes, those are super sport bikes, and they still have 50 horsepower and they're 400 pounds, like they're still wicked fast. So they're lightweight,
Okay.
which is great for a beginner bike.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
definitely.
displacement wise, they're small, but it'll flat out kill you because they're extremely fast. So you can't, if you're you have to figure out what kind of bike you want.
Okay.
So if you're after sport bikes, like your goal is to be a sport bike rider, and that's what you want to like graduate to and buy like an R1 or a Hayabusa or something crazy, something fast. Even if you start out on an R6, it's enough to kill you really quickly.
Okay.
Well, that thing will stand up and do wheelies. So if at that point maybe you go, maybe you do like a Ninja 300, or you do like an FZ6 or something like that, something that's not super sport, that has like a riser on the handlebars, but still have a 600 cc. So you still achieve kind of like a sporty look because you still have that sport bike look.
Yeah.
But you don't have, they're down tuned massively. So that I think it's called an FC6, which is the Yamaha 600. It's not the same as an R6. That those are very different.
Yeah, I'm thinking like in generalities, like when people, because you're gonna get people asking you questions all the time. What's a good beginner bike? Or I want to get this bike. Is this a good beginner bike? And there's just so many different variables. Like I can't tell somebody get a Rebel 500 if they want to do sport bikes.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the hardest part for me is to explain, how can I explain it in one blanket term that this is what you need to do as a beginner. And I think it really all comes down to the actual rider itself. And you usually get these questions from people wanting to start off that have no experience in motorcycles. And the ones that do have experience, they always say, start off on a small bike, start off on a small CC bike. And with my experience, I'm telling people, get a bike that you like and you fit on, and then get the training. Because if you understand that if you pull the throttle too much on an R6, you're gonna freaking kill yourself.
Yeah, stand up.
So, but that's not the R6's fault. That's the rider's fault.
Right.
So
yeah,
should we
I
be
mean,
accommodating riders that don't know how to ride? I mean, ones if they get like a freaking 125 and they're like, okay, this is what I was told by the online community. And now that I understand throttle control, because that's scary, throttle control, clutch control, all that stuff is a new skill to learn. It's scary. Now they have a 125 and they're like, man, this sucks. I hate it.
No, I agree with you. So, like when people, like from dealership standpoint, when
Okay.
people come in and they're looking at, um, we don't sell them new, but so used bikes. Used bikes are great to start out on as far as beginners go because, there's so many bikes out there that you can find kind of what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but financially they're generally less money than if
Yeah,
you were to
used
buy
bike,
one
yeah.
brand new, right? So, when you're looking at beginner motorcycles, you tend to look, is it budget friendly?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go out and spend $20,000-$30,000 on your first bike. Some people do. I think that's how Harley's made their living for years.
I bought a brand new Harley, first time rider, no endorsement. That was like 13 grand, and that was the cheapest I could get. It was a Sportster.
Well, yeah, but you could have bought an 883.
Yeah.
Because that was out.
Yeah.
And so you could have saved $3 grand there. So I think that's a big thing to look at as far as, is it budget friendly, and then what they're after and what you're looking for. And yeah, you're right. Are they comfortable on it? Because so on a Scout, a lot of people could be comfortable on a Scout.
Yeah,
they can turn that bike
Yeah.
into somebody that fits guys my size, or a guy that's a foot taller.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nikki
and
can
heavy.
flat foot. Nikki can
Right.
flat foot that thing. She's 4'11", 5 foot, and it's comfortable for her as is. So I can't think of a 6 foot guy.
They'd be comfortable.
They'd be comfortable.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Scouts is that they have you have the ability to get an extended reach seat and move it back and make you fit comfortably on it. But the big thing goes back to how they're going to ride it. So if they've had the proper training and they're smart about it, because it's 100 horsepower on a 500-pound bike.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a Scout.
Is wicked fast.
Even a Scout 60 is freaking fast.
Right, but it's all relative to how open you turn the throttle. So if you're it'll only go as fast as you want it to go.
Yeah.
So if you really want it to go fast, you have that ability, but you don't have to make it go fast. The problem with that is on beginner riders, for the most part, they don't have like that. They don't have that that thought process. Like they hit it and they go.
Yeah.
And it takes time to really, really, really figure out your throttle and throttle control and stuff like that. And the beginner safety courses, it's unfortunate that not everybody takes them.
Yeah.
And the guys that don't take them, they have issues on when they do that.
Yeah.
They punch it and it goes.
And that's one thing I like about Europe is that they have that A1, A2 license where I like America how you could pick whatever you want. I'm more of the freedom thing, but I like how you have to take certain classes to move up in CC range. Because you are focused on a 125 when you first start.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound budget friendly at all.
No, it doesn't.
Like you got to buy a 125.
Yep.
Then you get to buy a 250.
Yep.
And then like a 500.
Yep.
Or whatever. I think there's only 3 or 4. And then at some point you can buy whatever you want. But
Yeah.
I mean, you've had to spend money on 3 different bikes before you get to the bike that you really, really want or you set out to get in the first place.
But that's also if they want to move up in different licenses. Ones if they're happy with the 125, they don't get
then
the next license.
Then they stop.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to be happy here for a 125. So it's not something that.
Yeah, and that's another thing over there. You're a lot of city traffic and everything's condensed, so 125
you don't
is
need
perfect.
to go fast anyway. So your big bikes in Europe, I mean, anything bigger than like a 750 is probably huge.
Yeah, it's probably huge.
If it's a 600 cc, that's probably outside of the guys that have a bunch of money that buy Harleys and stuff like that. But.
So that's another thing is that it really depends on what you can use it for, because if you are a beginner rider, and there's a whole bunch of variables with beginner riders when it comes to me, but I mean, what are you going to use it for? So for one, does it fit you? Do you fit fine on it physically? And then what are you going to use it for? Are you going to go out of town? That's the question that you asked me, because when I started, I was like, what about an 883? You're like, well, let's go out of town. Let's go to San Diego and stuff. And then the 883, you could do it, but you and I are going to have more fun on the 1200. So that kind of convinced me to get it.
Yeah, honestly, the 1200 still sucks.
It does.
For going out of town
does.
anyway. So that was probably, I mean, honestly, we probably would have been better off on imports.
You should have got me a Victory or something.
You know, well, I mean, at the time, I didn't even know anything other than Harley when I
Yeah.
started either. Like,
Yeah.
I knew Yamahas and stuff like that, but I wanted American made. And I mean, Victory was out at the time, but it wasn't something that we'd probably be happy with. But
No.
and they were big bikes.
Yeah, they're big bikes.
They didn't make a small one until 2017 when it was the Octane, and it was still fast as hell. That would have been a better bike for us to go out of town on because it had a 6-speed transmission.
Yeah.
So I mean, the big thing.
I remember pinging that.
You go 883 and you do a 1200 kit is probably better than just a 1200 kit.
I heard about that. Plus,
it's geared differently.
It's geared differently, and insurance is cheaper. I mean, there's just a bunch of
they don't
benefits.
know it's juiced up to a 1200. Yeah. So no, I think for us to go out of town, it was probably still a poor decision on our part to buy the bikes that we did because we could have.
That's the thing is that we were both beginners. Like I was a beginner listening to another beginner.
Right.
And
the cool thing about the Sportsters were that there was so much room for customization, which we really liked about it. I mean, it had endless like routes that we could take to turn our bikes into whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, I turned into Cafe. You had ape hangers, and then we both went Cafe, and I went Scrambler.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was neat.
Yeah, it was cool.
And there's no other bike out there still like that you could do that too. So that was the benefit of going the Harley route. So
yeah, but yeah, a lot of it for the beginner rider is like, what are you going to use it for? So with the Europe thing, a 125 250 could be good. Even a scooter in some areas could be good because it's automatic and you're in town.
If you just want to commute back and forth to work, or whatever, that's plenty. That's fine. So
we're getting into,
and that's budget friendly.
Yep.
And it's small and it's light and anyone could ride it. I mean, at that point you could get a scooter.
But, doesn't like the Grom get like 100 something miles per gallon? I mean, it's a 125, and if you're just going from here to work 5 miles away,
if it's just in town, it'd be fine.
Yeah. So
it'd be scary on the highway.
Oh hell yeah. Supposedly you can go 60 miles up Mount Lemmon. Cop told me once. Yeah.
That cop's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So we're getting into all these different variables. So you have first of all, does it fit you? And then we're talking about different CC ranges. The R6 is different than like the Street 500.
Right.
And then we're going, what is it you want to use it for? So whenever I get these questions, is this a good beginner bike? I always ask that. What are you going to use it for? Mm-hmm. Do you have any training? So that goes into the CC thing. Mm-hmm. And then does it fit you? Go sit on a bike. And that's where I usually come in. And I think that's where a lot of people get different arguments is that, from their own personal experiences, well, I started on this bike and it was too much for me, or I started on this bike and it wasn't enough because like in 2 months I wanted to get like a 1000. I wanted to get a leader bike. And that's where I think the online community and anybody is mentioning. And from my point of view, I'm not the type of person who's like, hey, get a smaller bike and then graduate, because that's honestly a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I'm the type of person that says, get the bike that you want to get because you sat on it. It feels good to you, and get it for what you want to use it for. So if you're going to want to go out of town, you're going to need to get a bigger CC bike. And then since you're getting a bigger CC bike, get training. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you could crash on a 125 and kill yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
But you can do it easier on a 1000.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that. So training yourself.
No, I think training is the most important aspect of it anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on a big bike or if you're on a small bike. I mean, if you don't know how to ride, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can kill yourself either way. So yeah, that's important. I mean, you have a hell of a lot less chance to kill yourself though.
Yes.
On something that doesn't have the the power that an R6 does or something like that, because you just make a mistake.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the hard thing is beginners make a lot of mistakes at the beginning. And a lot of beginners want to get a bike and they go out riding right away. Like for me, it was I went and got a bike, and then within a week we went to San Diego. Yeah. Like that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you got to do it though.
Yeah, at some point you got to do it.
You spent a lot of time that week around your neighborhood and
but I did it smart.
To venture out. Yeah, absolutely. You did it the right way. I did it the very wrong way.
I don't know how you did it. How'd you do it?
Well, I mean, I did what anybody else that didn't take a rider safety course kind of thing and didn't have a guide to tell you, hey, this is how you should do it. So, I mean, when I told you to like feather the clutch and find that find that spot where
Mhm.
you can feel it go forward. I didn't do that. So
No.
I just got on this in the cul-de-sac of the house, and I just went boom, and it went whoo.
You taught me how to drive stick in your Toyota,
did.
and that was the first time driving stick. And then I
Yeah.
drove my brother's manual truck.
Oh man, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of this guy. Taught him how to drive stick
Yeah.
and ride his first motorcycle.
Yeah.
God, I'm such a good father.
Father, shut up. We're the same age, June 14th. So I think we can keep talking about that, but let's open it up to the chat. We have 17 people in here. We did 15 minutes of good talking on that.
Hey-o.
So that was really good. So basically, it came down to
Whatever you're comfortable on.
yeah,
What fits the budget.
yeah, that's a big one.
And then what your plan to use it for, like how are you going to use it. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for a motorcycle to take down to the coffee shop in the morning, like every Saturday, and have coffee with your buddies,
Yeah.
you don't need. You can get a 125. You can get a Grom.
Yeah.
Or Super Cup, which I like a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's
Have
the
you seen
same.
the Super Cup?
No.
So it's like a monkey. So
Okay.
you have the Grom,
Yeah, the monkey.
you have the monkey, and then you have the Super Cup. So it's the same motor.
Oh, the Super
but
Cub.
it's a little scooter.
I thought you said Super Cup.
It's the little scooter.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen
man,
that.
it's
I've seen that.
I like it a lot.
So it's a lot like you go out car shopping. It's like, well, do I want to commute in town or do I want to go off road?
Yeah.
And it's like you get a
Yeah.
truck if you're gonna go off road. So, anyways, Gary says, what about an electric? And he's saying, I'm guessing they wouldn't be a good beginner bike because of the instant torque through the whole range. I personally have never ridden an electric bike. You said you rode.
Yeah, I've ridden several.
Okay, so that's more of a question for you then. I know they have a lot of torque. That's the thing.
They're instant torque. So
Yeah.
there's no like the crazy thing is there's no playing with the throttle. Yeah, I mean, so it's boom, it's there.
Yeah.
Like it's there. Now, obviously, you won't go as fast as it wants to go unless you hold it there. You know what I mean? So if you're trying to get to top speed, you have to have it there and you have to hold it there for a while
So
because it's not. You don't go from 0 to 100 in 0 seconds.
Yeah.
It still takes time to get there.
Yeah.
But if you really smack the throttle,
So it keeps
it's-
going.
I
Okay.
mean, it's gone. It's instant torque.
Well,
it's instant.
I mean, I've ridden a scooter, so I'm trying to think of it that way because like you go slow, faster. There's no shifting.
Right.
So for an electric, it's same thing, but it's quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fast. So the big thing with electric would be it'd be fine if you had the proper training and you got to take some time to like learn it and learn the intricacies of the bike and stuff like that.
That'd be so weird because a lot of the training that's involved with MSF is that clutch control, throttle control.
Yeah, that doesn't
for
apply.
U-turns. It doesn't apply to an electric bike. So when
Well, I mean, cornering and all that stuff. Literally, the only thing that won't apply is clutch.
Yeah, that's huge though. That's how people teach.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
imagine doing slow speed, like slow speed maneuvers, like a U-turn, and you might have to use because depending on how fast the bike is. Because my 1200, I have to play with the clutch. With Nikki's 500, I could give it throttle and do a U-turn the same. So if you have an electric bike that's super powerful, I mean, giving it just a little bit, you mess up a U-turn, you crash into the car in a parking lot.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you'd have to really feather it a lot.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to be on it and off it a lot.
And then
because
coast almost.
So I mean, it'd be something that you'd have to really, really play with. But it'd be, so electric. The only thing with electric is that you'd have to figure out what you're going to use it for. So if it's an in-town thing, then it'd be awesome because most of these electric bikes don't have a ton of range.
Yeah.
So you can do whatever you got to do in town and then just charge it overnight and then you're good to go the next day.
Yeah.
But that's starting to get. You got to figure out a price point. So if it's an entry level bike, not a lot of people have $30,000 laying around for a live wire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have $30,000 for a live wire. You're gonna do that on your first bike. Probably not a lot of people will do that. But you have Zero. And
Yeah,
those are
Zero's
pretty
good.
affordable.
So Zeros they came out with a new concept.
Lightning. I don't know if you've heard of Lightning, but it's so Lightning makes this like $40,000 super sport electric bike, and it's nasty, and it looks like a super sport. Like
Yeah.
it looks like.
I think I saw that, and everyone was comparing that to the Livewire, and they're like, "Are you serious? It's like half the price, you get twice the mileage or twice the range."
$40,000.
Oh no, I'm thinking of something else.
You're probably talking about the Zero.
There's a
Lightning
sport bike.
makes a Yeah, I think Zero makes one too. But so
Okay.
Lightning's coming out with one that's 13 grand MSRP with 150-mile range and 150-mile-per-hour top speed and a 45-minute charge at 14 grand. Like it's supposed to be pretty wicked. So that one, it's got Olin suspension and it's water cooled. I have no idea how it's supposed to work, like what the water cooling does on an electric bike. But I'm really
Yeah. I
interested
wonder if
to
the
see.
bike just gets hot. The
Yeah, I'm sure it
batteries.
does.
That's
So I'm
weird.
really interested to see that. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We got a question here from Daniel Alberto Moreno. Moreno, my parents are really scared I will buy a motorcycle. I was thinking a 125cc, but my friends tell me it's too small. They recommend 200cc. What's your opinion? See, this is what I'm talking about with the type of questions.
Yeah.
And what I would tell him, and Daniel, I'm not putting you on the spotlight or anything. You got a good name, anyways. But what the thing is we were talking about this. And it's like somebody that's generic, a 125cc. What are you going to use it for? What
Right.
kind of bikes are available to you to sit on that will fit you? And then what kind of training you have? Because for me, I want to tell him to get a 400, but it's like, is he in town?
Yeah, I mean, so Greetings from Mexico is probably really similar to like a lot of the European guys who they're not going to travel very far and they just want something for in town. So,
Yeah, so while we're explaining this, Daniel, go ahead and tell us what you're going to use it
yeah.
for, what's your height, and then not necessarily what's your budget and everything, because you could find anything at any budget, basically. All right, so so you're going to use it in town. So yeah, are you like in town only? That really plays a huge part in all of this.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's much difference between 125 and 200 cc's.
There really isn't.
You know, like I don't know I don't know if there's much difference at all. So if you ask your friends, like, why do they feel like a 200cc is big enough for you and a 125 isn't? Because to me, there's no difference. Like, if I hopped on a 125, now if it's a dirt bike, there's a difference. And then, I mean, then
Yeah.
you start to,
Yeah, that's a
you
big
start
difference.
to really get into, if it's like a two-stroke 250 and a two-stroke 125, they're very different.
See, that's the thing.
And
is
they're
that,
both fast as hell.
That's the thing is that people are saying, well, I can get a 125, and like they decide to get a dirt bike, and you tell them that's too small, but they never tell you they want a dirt bike, and you tell them to get a 400, and they go get like a freaking massive
450
bike,
or something like a YZ450.
yeah, and they hurt themselves. I mean, I understand two strokes a little bit different, and we're more torque, right? Is it more torque?
Yeah, there's a power band
Yeah.
in two strokes, and it's nasty. Like
Yeah.
it's you got to be really careful. But I think the big thing is what kind of bike. So if you God, man, for beginner guys, I mean, I think it's really important to figure out what kind of bike it is, because
Yeah.
if we're talking about dirt bikes, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
But if we're just talking about regular, motorcycles, there's really no difference, not to me anyway, between 125 and 200 cc.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, get what you're comfortable with, and then at some point, if you feel like you need something else, you might have to take a hit by selling it private party and then buying something else. But I mean, that's just the life. And if you can afford it, keep the 125 and get like a 300 or something. Now you have two different bikes for two different purposes.
Totally.
That's the one thing I really like about Nikki's bike, is that in town, I'm able to mess around on that. I like the Rebel 500 more than my 1200 in town. It's easier to shift. It's easier, like the power and everything. It's like, it's all I need.
Yeah.
It's like my Nissan Sentra versus a freaking sports car.
Yeah.
It's like, but when I want to go fast from 0 to the speed limit, I take my Sportster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more
Yeah.
torque. There's more power.
So I want to use it in town to learn, but as I increase my abilities, I'd like to travel to near towns. So a 200, 250, depending on how far the towns are and what speed you're going to be going at, honestly, I think a 200, 250 is probably what you'd be good with. And then for me personally, from my point of view, is get the training. And I know MSF doesn't do anything in Mexico, but I'm sure that there's some type of training facility out there for you. And
There's gotta be.
there has to be. I mean, I think Mexico would do something. But if not, there's always the DDFM training manual. I'm not trying to plug that, but I do have a lot of parking lot practice. Watch Moto Jitsu on the internet. Watch MC Rider. There's a lot of parking lot practice stuff that you can do. The main thing is clutch and throttle control. Gary Barrett, Ian Van Dyke, in my opinion, 250cc is a good starter size. It is a good starter size, and that's what we use at the MSF for the most part. There are other places that, or at least at Ride Arizona, we use 250s, but Harley uses the Street 500s, but they're governed to like 23 miles per hour, second gear basically.
Yeah, I mean, 250 is a good starter bike. The problem
Yeah.
with it is that when you look at what we try to do, so from a dealership aspect, when people come in and they're looking for a starter bike, we want to really have the conversation with them is what the ultimate goal is. So if the ultimate goal is to be on, let's say, a touring bike, they want to buy, your Gold Wings or your Roadmasters or your Ultra Classics, like all that stuff,
You can join it.
then you're absolutely going to ride this thing. And then in 3 months or less, you're going to be ready for something bigger. And it's the buying the motorcycle is the hardest part of this entire
That's
thing.
really the time frame
Once
too.
you have the bike,
Mhm.
you learn so quickly, and then you grow out of it so quickly. It's almost on a 250. It's almost instantaneous. Like within a couple months, you're ready for something else. You've mastered it. It's crazy how quickly, if you're doing it right, how motorcycling just becomes natural, and you figure it out, and then it's really fast to get to the point that you're ready for something bigger. And so when you're looking at it from a financial aspect, you spend all this money on a 250, and then in 3 months you're ready to spend all this money to get out of that 250 and then into something else. So the cool thing about the evolution of motorcycles and such is that they're building so many more motorcycles that are in a displacement range that you can be happy with for a little bit longer and to get your money's worth a little bit more, and then and to learn. So the cool thing, like, so with Indian, when people come in and they want to have an Indian, they want to own an Indian, but they want a beginner's bike.
Yeah.
It's the Scout 60.
It's a good bike.
Your Scout 60 is the least expensive of the bunch. It's 10 grand or I think brand new they're $9,400 or $9,500 now. So it's relatively inexpensive in the motorcycle world for a 1,000cc American-made bike, and it comes with a 5-speed transmission, and it's geared really, really well. So it's got a lot of power to where it'll satisfy you for a while. It's still not saying that you won't outgrow it in 6 months and be ready for something else, but you'd be able to prolong you spending money and trading it and getting out of it immediately versus a 250. You're going to be ready immediately, and so fast.
And the thing is, like with my 1200, I felt like I outgrew that super quick. And I honestly felt like, man, I need more bike or a different bike. And I got the KLR, and then I did this. I went off road. I changed things up, and then I felt like I knew everything I needed to know for a bike. And I went to take some courses, took Total Control, and I did all this other stuff. And I found out I know shit about how to control a bike. Like there's things that you will never thought of doing on a motorcycle until you take these courses, and all of a sudden you bond well with your bike.
That means I don't know.
Then you don't know. But like you get so good at going straight, turning on a signal, merging with traffic. You get good at that kind of stuff, but you really get good at controlling your bike and like being one with the bike. And when I took that Total Control class, I thought I knew stuff, and it was crazy how much I learned from all that. It was very eye-opening. So even on a 250, if you get too bored of that, before you go out and try to sell it and buy a bunch of money, try to do something that you've never done with that bike. Take a different class that will put you through the paces where you have to learn slow speed, fast speed, all this other stuff. Take it to a track if you can take it to a track and see how much fun you can have on that. Because a 250cc like sport bike, they race those.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not saying you can't have fun with 250, because you absolutely can.
No, but I agree with the whole point of people saying, hey, I have a 250, I outgrow it in 3 to 6 months, but all they're doing is going to work and back. And they're just so tired and used to that power and speed. Yeah. But the thing is, you're going the speed limit, and now all you're going to do is get to the speed limit faster. Right. And it's a different bike. It's just a new feeling. So if you want to have that new feeling on the same bike, go take a class, take it to track, take it and do something, or go take a BRC1. And I understand that's the MSF BRC1. I understand that, like, if you feel like you're, above that level, take that class and you could use somebody else's bike. I went from a Sportster and my KLR 650 at some point. Those were the only two experiences on a
Forgot the
motorcycle.
KLR.
I know, I had it for like 4 months.
Yeah.
I think it was so fun. But when I got to the class at Ride Arizona, is that I chose I ran to the KLX 250, and that was that super sport type, or not super sport. It was a what was it? Anyways, it's that sumo. It's not a sumo. I can't think anymore. I've had IPAs. But anyways, it was too tall for me. It was a different kind of bike, and I was having a lot of fun on it. I had more fun on that IPA. I had more fun on that 125 than I had on my 1200 for a very long time, and that's kind of got me into wanting the DRZ 400. So I mean, there's different things that you can do to get that new feeling.
Don't buy a DRZ.
Why?
Because you're gonna buy FTR.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy the FTR 1200.
Simple.
So my thing is take a class. I understand that some of them are pretty expensive, and if they feel pretty expensive, go to a parking lot and practice and watch Moto Jitsu, myself and MC Rider, and just play around, have fun with the bike, experiment with the bike, see what you can do with the bike, see how dumb you can be with the bike. It's in a safe way. I do want to take more courses, Joshua said. Yeah, take more courses. The more you take, the better. I have Total Control 2 coming up in 25 days, March 10th or whatever it is. I think it's 24 days now. And I'm excited for it. I'm not looking forward to it in this aspect of I'm going to feel like an idiot going to class. I'm legit going to a class that I don't know anything about. And everyone feels like an idiot, but you learn so much. So the 250 was great from taking my road test. Plus, it boosted my confidence for working on a bike, and it was $600. Dude, that's perfect.
Yeah, so $600.
It's
absolutely worth.
That's worth. Yeah,
I'd buy a 250.
I'd buy a 250 right now for $600.
Yeah, I mean, at that point,
That's
you can
fun.
do whatever you want with it. I mean, if you're a beginner and you could find a 250 for $600, you can trash that thing if you wanted to.
Yeah,
and it's okay because
your insurance
it's not that large.
Your insurance will probably
anyway,
cost
so.
more over a year than the bike did.
Yeah, well, I don't know. 250s are cheap.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
I
true.
don't think the insurance was
$600 is a good price though.
Yeah, so
I'd
that's
have fun.
cheap enough to where you can buy that and then ride it and ride the hell out of it. You can ride that thing hard. You can make mistakes on it. It's light enough to where if you fall, you just make some silly mistake, then you fall, then you're probably okay. And it's not that big a deal. It's not going to go fast enough. I mean, it'll still go 60, so that's enough to kill you. But
yeah,
I mean, you're
shoot,
not
10
gonna
miles
really,
can kill you.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. That's a really, really small investment. And he made $200 on it. Good job, Steve.
Damn, dude. See, that's the thing is I think a lot of European countries, a lot of people buy those 125s and then sell them again real quick to get to the next license.
Yeah, and then there's probably people that are just got their first one that are gonna pick that 125 up because they're doing the same damn thing. They're gonna blow through the sizes to get to where they want, and then it's really, really cool. I like that idea. I think business sense for motorcycles would be great because then they just have to come back.
That'd be a good business, man. I was gonna say that'd be a good business. Have a shop
that'd be cool.
where you just take it, repair it, whatever it is, and then resell it to like somebody else.
That's what we do. Man.
I know, but like that's your shop. You don't sell new bikes. Like you legit.
Oh, you just take used bikes,
used
and
125s,
and then
like Played Against Sports, but for motorcycles.
Played Against Sports. That's funny.
So here we go. Let's get some more. That was good. You guys are coming up with really good topics to talk about, and we can expand on. That's the one thing I really like about this live stream type stuff. Joshua says they're expensive. The courses, yeah, they can be expensive. But here's the thing: is that for the most part, you're going to want to spend a lot of money on some fancy stuff. And I know I have a Vance and Hines box over there. We're going to go and open that up pretty soon. It's a pretty expensive exhaust that they sent me, but you don't need new exhaust. You really don't. You don't need a bunch of new things.
I think he's talking the classes.
I know. Yeah, I know. But okay, cool. I'm going to get to that. So like save that money and take a class, and you're going to get more out of that. So like $800 exhaust, like a slip-on for some of these bikes. You can take 3 classes.
Let me chime in real quick.
All right, go ahead.
Joshua, your funeral expenses are going to be a lot more.
Yep.
Than the MSF course to your family. So.
Even getting even getting cremated, it's like $500, right? That's like 2 classes right there. And you don't
kidding, man. You're fine.
You don't get paid for donating organs either. It's called donations. But yeah, definitely. And if they're too much for you, Moto Jitsu, I'm not at his level yet. He does have like a white belt, blue belt, black belt, purple belt type grading system for his parking lot practices. So if you feel like you need a program,
he gives out belts.
Yeah, he has belts. They're pretty cool.
really
They're like
interesting.
little keychain belts.
Oh, they're not real belts?
No. Well, they're like a piece of a belt.
Oh no,
You
I
cut
want like a
a
full
full-on belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, let's look. So, motojitsu.com, and we're just gonna do this real quick. And I like to. Jeez, I can't.
Yeah, I got it, man. Don't worry
No,
about
I'm
it.
gonna send it. I know you got it, but I'm gonna
You're
send it.
struggling with typing at the
I'm
moment.
struggling. Well, I got half a screen, so I'm gonna
Help
put
you
this
out
in the
here.
chat.
Unlock your potential.
Yeah, so he does really good. So check that out, motojitsu.com. I'm pushing his thing because he has a solid program already set up for people. I don't. I just make videos and talk. So he has a set up program. So do that before you take a class if you want, and that'll save you money. It's all free. And if you want to support him, he has a Patreon. So Gary said, Daniel, I'm afraid there isn't anything similar to the MSF in Mexico. I just paid for a private course. The rest is just practice. So I agree. I mean, there's probably not much. I mean, I wouldn't know, but if you paid for a private course, that's good. You can do that in the United States. My parents paid for a private driver's ed person for me. So I spent like a week with that guy, and he taught me everything.
That's because you had no friends.
I didn't have any friends. No, I didn't.
That was more along the lines of let's get Daniel somebody to hang out with for a week.
That wasn't what it was, but.
And then, yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Daniel, you're so close to. I mean, you're in Mexico, and Mexico's not very large. So you could. We're in Tucson. We're real close. So you just come hang out, and you know
There you
can
go.
learn that way.
Riders on MTC, bro.
Yeah. Mexico City's like 4 hours away, I think.
Yeah, that's nothing. Parking lot practice.
If there's a wall, just go around it because they're not done building.
They're not fucking shit. Here comes the beers. Gary Barrett. It's like cheap whiskey and expensive whiskey. It all takes you to the same destination.
Oh God, but it tastes very different, Gary.
And one gives you a headache and one doesn't.
There's some whiskeys out there that are horrible, and then there's some that are really, really delicious. So I don't know, man. There's an absolute difference, and I gotta have the good stuff.
I like the good stuff. I'm more of a bourbon person though. Whiskey kind of just is it there. Whiskey is. I mean, bourbon is whiskey, right?
Bourbon, yeah.
It's just different, like
differently
how it's made.
Yeah,
I like bourbon.
I love bourbon.
Bourbon
is good.
My favorite's Knob Creek right now, just because it's cheap and it tastes good.
Mine is Woodford Reserve.
Okay.
Or that Del Bar.
Okay.
The Tucson, the one made here in Tucson.
Uh-huh.
No, it's so good.
Nice.
It is delicious. And I have a beer that was made in the Del Bar barrel, so I'm going to try that out.
Oh, and speaking of which, I'm drinking a Mother Road Brewing Company Tower Station Indian Pale Ale. We're just kind of having chit chat and talk. So to jump back in, Gary Bennett, speaking of working on bikes, is there a particular bike that's easier to work on than others? I only have here. I'm gonna move the camera. Go ahead.
Totally. So I mean, there's a lot of different motorcycles out there that have that require way more work. So the newer stuff is getting pretty cool to where you don't need valve adjustments. Valve adjustments suck. So
Never done one.
Yeah, like if it's shim over bucket, you need to purchase shims, buckets. You got to do like full on motor work, and it just takes time. It's a lot of time, and it's tedious, and it sucks. So if they have like hydraulic lifters to where you don't need valve adjustments, and then you just need like Harley is the only one I think that does the separate primary and transmission and separate motor oil. So you have 3 different oils.
Yeah, I have to change the oils.
Stupid. It's just dumb. And a lot of other bikes are just the one oil. Like it's
I just recently
one
read.
oil
I was
for
gonna
the
say
whole thing.
I recently read. Was it? I don't know. I'm just having my stupid beer thoughts.
Okay.
There's one where it's used just one oil and it goes to transmission, but that's pretty typical among bikes, right?
Yeah. So most like import bikes only use one oil.
Okay.
Indian is unit construction.
Yeah, maybe that's probably where I heard it.
So you have it's just one oil, and it does your primary, your tranny, and your motor. So and most bikes are like that. Harley, I think, might be the only dummies that do it the other way. So so you have 3 different intervals, service intervals for all that stuff. You have 3 different oils, and it's just tedious and so much more work. there's absolutely bikes. A lot of import bikes are a lot easier to work on than the Harleys.
Mhm.
The Indians are easy, but the Scout requires a valve adjustment, and that sucks. But to me, it's worth it because the Scout is just
Yeah, Scout's a
incredible
good bike.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun every time I do a demo ride at Indian. I make sure I ride some of the Scouts. At least
Scouts
the
are
New
cool.
Year's.
We're gonna
New
have
Year.
FTR soon. FTR.
Are we gonna be able to demo ride that one?
God, I would imagine so. So I think I expect to see FTRs in April. And so any demo that
I was
we
gonna
have
say you're gonna have a demo.
after-
You're gonna have a demo in April.
Well, we don't know when the demo is.
No?
But
Oh, okay.
if we have a demo anytime after that, I would expect there to be an FTR for demo ride. Totally. So we'll
Cool.
see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah,
Haven't-
we're gonna be. Let's see. In my area, the cheapest MSF course I could find is $250 for a 3-day course, but saves money in the long run. Yes, you get you take that BRC card, you take the MSF card, you take it to your insurance, and they give you a good discount. And it's for the long run. And then some other stuff. Can you go over the ups and downs? How's it say UPS? Ups and downs for different drive systems, chain belt, and shaft for a bike, and how easy it is to maintain. So for me, I just got into the chains, but I've had a belt, and I've never, ever had an issue with my belt. I've known some people that had a belt blow up on them, but I've got about 30,000 miles on my bike. I've taken my bike off road without a belt guard. Never had an issue with my belt, and I've looked at it many times, and I don't have any nicks or cracks, and I follow the Harley's service manual, and the belt's fine. The chain, I don't know too much, and the shaft, I don't know too much. There's a great video from motorcyclist.com that goes over that, Joshua. So I personally don't know too much about that. Do you know anything about chain versus shaft versus belt? Okay, perfect.
So best of both worlds is belt.
Okay.
So the cool thing about belt is that there's not a lot of play in it. So if you're talking about, if it's a drive shaft, let's say the bike, you lose a ton of power through that shaft before it gets to the rear wheel. There's a lot of power loss through there.
In the shaft?
Mhm.
See, I don't know any of that. I'm
So
learning with
there's
you guys
a lot
right
of
now.
power loss through the shaft, and then some bikes you get this weird lifting in the rear feeling. There's this weird feeling on a shaft drive.
Okay.
It's unique to shaft drive. It just feels fucking awkward.
Is that just like an old system?
Yeah, well, no, I mean still some bikes do it that way.
The Shadow does, right?
Some shadows do.
Okay.
So if you're talking about reliability, so there's zero maintenance. Like you don't have to worry about tightening anything or lubing it up or anything like that. You do have to replace some oil or something like that.
Yeah, there's a little oil. I remember there's a little oil
in the drive
back.
shaft
Yeah.
at some point, and I think that's miles and miles and miles of interval. Like you don't have to do that every 5,000 or 10,000. I think that takes a while for you to get to that point where you need to do it.
The lifting is due to the torque.
Okay, so it's just a weird, awkward feeling,
Okay.
but you lose a lot of power through the shaft. So
Thank you, Diego.
yeah, thanks. So chain drive is the absolute best for power delivery because there's no give. It's there.
I mean, that's why everyone's telling, like, back when I was riding off road, it's like, why aren't you converting it to chain? You get more power or something.
No, the belt's to me the belt's fine. So
Okay.
the problem with chain
Keep
is
going.
that you have to lube it and tighten it, and there's sprockets and all that shit wears out, and at some point you need to replace the chain and the sprocket, and it's constant tighten, constantly lubing it. It's just a lot of work. It's the best power delivery, but it's a lot more work to maintain it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that with Nikki's Rebel.
Belt is there's a little bit of play there, but it's not a lot. And
I've
you
never
don't
had an
have to-
issue.
You don't have to lube it up. You don't have to and so you may have to tighten it every now and then, but it's very, very seldom. And so belt to me is the best of both worlds between low maintenance and best power delivery. And so a lot of bikes out there nowadays are using belt drive. And then shaft drive, you lose power, but you have to. There's really no maintenance.
I mean, all the
until this
Indians
time,
are
so-
belt, right? So for
All
the
the
FTR.
Indians are belt.
FTR is chain. I think it's chain.
It might be.
Yeah, I think it's chain. So that's like the only Indian that's
FTR
chain. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, you'll have to make sure that you maintain it. Like it just
Yeah.
requires more maintenance. Belt, you look at it, you make sure there's no rocks in there. If you have a
Yep.
belt guard, there's probably nothing in there, and then you're done. So that's the nice part. Chain,
Yeah.
they get so grimy and gross because there's lube on it, and then
Yeah.
all this dust, especially here,
Yeah.
just gets cated, and it's disgusting. And
Yeah,
it sucks,
and you
and
have
gotta spray it off.
to clean it like
Yeah, man, it's
like
awful.
like a lot.
Yep,
Like
a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Like I read somewhere it's like every 100, 200 miles.
Yeah, it's probably once every week or a
Yeah.
couple weeks.
That's
Yeah.
right. I've never done anything like that with the belt. Every time I do like a weekly, or before I ride and I haven't been on it for a while, I'll check my bike real quick. I'll do a quick walk around and I'll look at the belt real quick. And the thing with the belt is I remember reading in the Sportster service manuals that like, you know, if it's there's like a cut in the groove, and they show pictures in the service manual, so it's always good to have a service manual when you get a bike. It's different than the owner's manual. And so it tells me exactly what it is I need to look for. And so far on my belt, after taking it off road, thousands of miles across Arizona, California, and all that stuff, no dings, no nothing. And that could be just me, but I've never had an issue.
No, and a lot of these are like Kevlar reinforced.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, how many miles do you have on your Sportster?
Roughly 30,000 right now.
Yeah, 30,000 of like abuse.
And I've never had to load it, or
Right.
not load it, lube it, you know, adjust
They probably
it.
tighten it.
Well, when I get a new tire.
Yeah,
when I
they
get
probably
new-
tightened it at some dealers, but man, you've abused the shit out of
Yeah.
that thing, and you haven't had to really mess with it. Whereas a chain, it's just way more work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work with the chain.
But it's the best power delivery.
Yep.
So
Yep. I was actually thinking about it, switching, getting a pretty nice sprocket, and
But I think belt now, especially nowadays, these belts are getting even stronger and stronger. That it's almost
it's gonna make.
I don't know how different they are as
Yeah.
far as power delivery goes.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Andy, you got like some sticky stuff on your back.
It's probably boogers.
Boogers. You got some boogers. What's up, G Pop, Soupy Gnome, Lovato, Road Wrangler? Thanks for joining. Diego, thanks for answering the lifting portion.
Yeah.
So it must have a lot of torque when it comes up on that. So I think it's time for me to open up
A beer.
a beer. No.
Beer.
Yeah. I'm gonna open up my Vance and Hines. That's why I'm wearing my shirt. So this isn't a paid ad or anything like that. They just sent me something in the mail I didn't think was gonna show up. So I just want to open it up real quick.
When Vance and Hines just sends you shit, and it just shows up on like your front porch, and you just you didn't order it, you didn't spend anything on it, and it's just this big old box that says Vance and Hines. That's got to be a good feeling.
It's a great feeling, and they
You're
sent
probably
me
6 to midnight, like real quick.
right.
You're like, bang.
Always at midnight. Always at midnight.
Midnight always.
So when I first started, I don't work for them, so this isn't one of those things. Is that and they're not officially sponsors, but for the Dan the Fireman channel, they sent me this shirt. I love this shirt. I found out you can only get this shirt if you work there, so it's pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, you can't order the shirt.
I
online.
have that.
You don't have that. You don't have that. So this is a great shirt. I'm wearing it today because they sent me something. I know what's in there, but I did talk about it on my stream. That I'm gonna open it up here. So I'm gonna open up here. So you keep talking.
I got a package too.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
And so, okay, hey, so it doesn't say Vance and Hines on it. But here, watch out. Here, so I got a package too. It's from like custom pizza.
There's pizza right there.
Custom motorcycle shop. They specialize in custom bikes and espresso and coffee. And they're out of Atlanta, and it's called Brother Moto. And so they sent me this, and it's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna do an unveiling.
Yeah.
And I know you guys.
Unboxing.
I don't work for them or anything like that. And I know I just I'm just wearing it and stuff. It's an unboxing. So here we go. All right, so I'm gonna unbox it, and oh, what? It's a hat. They sent me a hat.
Yay!
Brother Moto, and it says coffee and motorcycles. And so I've reached like ultimate dad level to where I wear hats that say coffee and motorcycles.
I can't get this out.
And
That's
so
what she said.
I'm excited.
Sorry, Andy.
Oh shit.
It's all one piece. Help me.
All right, hold on.
Help me.
Hold on.
Here, I'll pull this up. You just push it down. You gotta. It's just shit.
Hold on. Hold it up.
I'm holding it. Are you pulling?
Yay! Oh,
Oh, we dropped
shit,
something.
we just broke it.
So, right now, son of a bitch. So this is the 2-1. Fuck, I shouldn't be drinking if I'm trying to remember. What did I tell you it was?
This is the upsweep. Upsweep.
From Vance
and Hines.
Damn, I'm doing terrible.
So this looks like just the header system on it. So this isn't very extravagant. We want to see the good stuff. So
Yeah, let's cut this thing up.
it's it looks like it's a 2-1. So you have your 2 cylinders here, and it goes down to the 1,
Where'd I put
and
the
we're
scissors?
missing the muffler. So
I'm thinking the muffler's in here because the heat shields are on here, and this is supposed to be black. There you go. Thank you. So let's get this open. Where did I put the scissors?
I don't know.
Oh, they're right there behind you. Got it. Thank you. I don't have nails. I chew them. I have anxiety. Oh, I should probably open this part up. So this came from Vance and Hines. They've been really good to me. They have that. I'm gonna have to do a whole new series on the fuel pack because. Did I open up the right side? Okay. When you get a new exhaust, you're gonna have to get the right oxygen and fuel ratio. Okay, so that's the muffler part. Oh damn,
Ooh.
that was sexy. So you're gonna have to get the whole a new system. Damn, that looks badass. Do they already does it have white baffles in there?
Yeah,
already?
it's got that.
It's got damn. That's sexy. So what you have to do is you have to get a whole new. I'm gonna put this somewhere else. You have to do the fuel intake, so getting a fuel pack is very important. And luckily I have one. But yeah, so this is the 2-1 upsweep right here. Now the way they do it, so you're not confused, is that I got it in black. Okay, so the heat shields themselves are black. So when you actually see it on the motorcycle, it'll be black. So I'll be doing an install and all that other stuff, and I'll be doing some what was it? I have to do the fuel pack, or I have to re-auto tune it because I have it for the 2-2 mini grenades right now. And to be quite honest, the mini grenades are still good. There's a little bit of scuffs on them because I've been practicing pretty hard on them, and the Motojitsu scratched them. I scratched them during classes. So at any point, if anybody here is local that has a Sportster and needs an exhaust, come by and I'll give you my mini grenades.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got these now. So that's cool. Cool. Thanks, Vance and Hines. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brother Moto.
Brother Moto with the hat.
The hat.
Coffee's in motorcycle. Boy. All right, back to the questions. That was a fun little intermission. That was not a paid advertisement. It just happened today that I got the exhaust. I found it outside.
Woo-woo.
Very nice. Thank you, Vance and Hines. Thank you, Brother Moto.
Brother Moto.
So, all right. Now that's an unboxing, boy.
That was fun.
It was fun. So how many miles does the average bike last before it hits the drop-off point, in quotes? So the drop-off point. Have you heard of what a drop-off point was?
Drop off like the bike is going to die.
Like value, die?
Or money. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean by that?
I guess we'll just respond to both.
Mm-hmm.
So value, like from a money standpoint, value-wise, like it seems like 20,000 miles is the time where you take a little bit of it. You take a pretty decent hit in value after 20,000 miles. And it sucks because 20,000 miles comes really, really fast. The problem is that there's so many other motorcycles out there of the same damn brand. Motorcycles are everywhere that you can find the same bike with 5,000 miles on it because the guy bought it and never rode it. And so they're just everywhere. So that does take a hit in value. So that's a drop off there. And then, I mean, from there, 30, 40, 50, it's just a big, more drop off from there. So it also depends on, and even with time, if it's a 20-year-old bike with 20,000 miles on it, obviously it's only 1,000 miles a year, but you know, there's still a 20-year-old bike out there with only 5,000 miles on it, guarantee it. So that takes a little bit of a hit there. But from like a lifespan standpoint, God, a lot of it is just completely relative to how you've taken care of it.
Okay, so where it becomes too expensive to keep fixing it, so better to get rid of it. Like normal cars, it's 200K point. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. So, God, man, yeah, a lot of these bikes will last a long time if you take care of them and if they've been treated really well. So,
I'm already at 30,000.
I don't think that's something that's got a blanket like you hit 100,000 miles and you're screwed type of number. Because I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that own motorcycles that have 100,000 miles on it, and all they've done was change their oil, you know, and replaced a few things that are just part of like routine service intervals. You know, at 50,000 miles, you need a new belt or whatever that stuff is. The big thing I think is that if you take care of it and it's been taken care of well and it's been treating you right, then you might as well just keep going at it. Now, just like with anything else, if you have an issue and then you fix it, and then in another month you have another issue, and then in another month you have another issue, it's probably reached the point where you're going to continue to have issues. And maybe at that point you make the decision, all right, man, I'm really tired of messing with this thing and it's time to say goodbye. But that could be never, or that can be at 100,000 miles, or that can be at 200,000 miles. I mean, if it's treating you well, you might as well just keep going at it until it starts treating you badly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do.
Same here. Raiden asks, what do you guys recommend for bikes like mine that don't come with a way to lift it while cleaning the chain, other than moving the bike forwards and backwards like I do? But I got a G-Pop says axle spools and stand. So like those axle spools, and you just...
Yeah, so I mean, that's really easy on sport bikes because they're really light. You know what I mean? So she
has an FZ07.
Okay, so that might work.
Yeah.
If you get axle spools and just the stand that you put into the spool, and then all you're doing is putting your weight on it, and then it lifts the rear end up, then you're good to go. You can do the front end of that too. You can do it the same.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing. So as long as your spools are in the right spots, you can do that. If it's a heavier bike, yours isn't. So that for your bike, that's probably the way to go, Rainin. But for the guys that have heavier motorcycles, one of like what do they call it? Like it's almost like the Z stand where you just you put it in there and you use a ratchet and it lifts it up, and then you get the rear wheel off the ground. The problem with that is that you got to find something to strap it in because it'll be pretty unstable. But they make lifts. God, you could buy a lift at like Harbor Freight, just like a jack stand.
That's what I did. I bought
an
ATV.
And then you put it underneath there, and then you get the rear end off. And once the rear end is up off the ground, if it's stable enough, and it's typically stable enough on heavier bikes like your Sportster, then you can, as long as the bike's in neutral, you can just move the rear tire. And then,
yeah, I just recently did that. I got an ATV stand from Harbor Freight for like $89, and I lift my whole bike up with some straps.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Are you talking about the stand underneath the bike? Like, is because there's all fairing all the way back. So the spool
thing is what
will allow you to lift the rear end up and not worry about a jack stand underneath. Because on sport bikes, if you put a jack stand underneath, for the most part, you're gonna just break your fairing and stuff like that. So the spools and then the spool lift, the stand, you'll be able to get the rear end up and not worry about breaking all the fairings and stuff like that on your bike. So that's
another thing. I mean, it's not just for. I mean, I'm probably gonna have to get that at some point for Nikki's bike, but that also helps. Like if you need to level the bike for any reason while doing maintenance, like changing your oil. So when you put it on the spools, it's gonna make the bike sit straight, not on the side stand. So it's gonna make it a little bit easier for that. So yeah, and some of them are pretty expensive. Getting the axle spools and then the stand. So if you can find them used online, so Raiden, I think we could probably find something here locally and figure that out. But yeah, that's probably the best bet. Like honestly, unless you're gonna get some straps and attach it to the roof and get a pulley system, like a 5-to-1 or something like that, and freaking lift your bike up.
That sounds like a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. So the actual spools and stand is probably the way to go. Only buy new if you plan on keeping it forever. So I mean, we could find something used. I think I've seen them used locally on Craigslist before. Yeah, I think that's the best bet then. See, for me, I can do a lift because it's not hitting the exhaust. It's not hitting anything special. That's it for me. Bike rider. How many bikes do you guys have? So I think we're gonna like not currently, but how many bikes have I owned?
I have 2 bicycles. 3.
Motorcycles. How many motorcycles have I owned? Okay, yeah.
I don't have any right now.
The 2012 Sportster that I have that I currently ride in all my videos is the first bike I've ever ridden, the first bike I've ever bought, the first bike ever with a motor on it. So I had that one. I have that one. I used to have a KLR 650 for a couple months. Sold that, so I've had 2. And the Rebel is my 3rd bike I've ever owned. That's it. Well, what about you?
I've owned 4.
You had the red, or no, not the red. You had the gray and black Nightster, the green and black, the 48, and then the Indian. You didn't have anything else? But you've ridden dirt bikes.
Dirt bikes.
Yeah, you've ridden
stuff.
dirt bikes.
I've had those, but as far as on-road bikes, I've only had 4.
Okay, so I'm at 3, you're at 4. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So that's just it. No spools. I guess that's what you're calling it. Yeah. So you're gonna have to buy them. You have to buy them extra. They are attached to the side. I think on the rear, like on the axle nut. Is it on the axle nut they're attached to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are on the axle nut, and then you like wedge the stand in.
Yeah.
It's got 2 wheels, and then you wedge it in there, and then you just use your weight to push down on it, and then it lifts the stand like bloop, and then your wheels up off the ground. And it's pretty sweet for sport bikes. It's great, and you can buy brand. I don't know. I don't think they're that expensive, but
I think at most you find some for $100 for a pair.
And if you're going to continue on sport bikes, you're going to use it a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah.
If the goal is, I mean, even if you don't keep the FZ7 and you get an FZ09 or something else,
just take those off. Take those off before you
take your spools off, and then keep it.
Yeah, so I think the spools are the aftermarket. It's an aftermarket thing you're gonna have to put on. I got Micho stuck in the air filter. All right, Dirty D's. You're gonna have to expand on that. I don't know what Micho is. Joshua Cords. Hey Ben, I have a shattered right wrist. Oh. And still ride a sport bike. Okay. Honestly, a compression wrap helps a lot, and to remember to hug the bike with your legs and thighs. So when he talks about Joshua, when he talks about that, he said Ben. So
yeah. So Ben said, any tips for sore wrists? I used to ride sports, but had trouble with previous stress fracture injury. Now thinking of changing to cruiser. Thoughts on wrist stress and stuff.
Okay. So yeah, the main thing is you're gonna want to keep your upper body loose. This is more of a coachable thing, is that you keep your upper body loose and you grip the bike with your legs. So exactly what Joshua says, that you're going to use your legs and thighs. If you notice on sport bikes, they have that little indentation on the left and right side of this, on the fake tank, because it's not the real gas tank. The gas tank is underneath that. So what you're going to want to do is grip with your legs and then keep your upper body nice and loose. What are you doing? Samsung Pay, bro?
No, how do you use this thing? There you go. Go to your browser. I want to look up what.
Oh, here.
Micho is.
Okay. Well, where's your phone? So here you go. Oh, so 2-in-1 Upsweep Black. So I looked it up before I did it. There you go. So what you're gonna want to do is grip with your lower body, and then you keep your upper body loose, because if you keep your upper body tight, and here's a really easy explanation of what I can tell you, is that try writing your name. So get a pencil in your hand or whatever, and try writing your name and clench your upper body. So like I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna clench my shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist. I'm gonna just straight clench it and try to write my name. Okay, it's not gonna be good. Now do it normal where it's nice and loose. It's the same thing when it comes to riding a motorcycle, is that you need to be nice and loose up top. If you're super tight, you're going to give bad inputs into the handlebars, which will give bad inputs to the bike. So when you stay nice and tight and the waist down, where you're grabbing the tank with your legs, and stay loose up top, it's going to be a lot easier. So when you have a fractured wrist and you have issue with wrist problems, if you're nice and loose you're not putting a lot of pressure on your wrist. So keeping a flat wrist when you're riding and then constantly adjusting it if you have to is the best way to go. You definitely don't want, and if it's honestly to the point where it's causing you issues while you're riding, then that's not safe. So if you have another mode of transportation, like a car, where you can drive with just your left hand instead of your right hand, do that. You definitely don't want to be taking the risk if you can't handle it. That's my input. What's Micho Reese?
No idea.
No idea. Sorry, Dirty D's. We don't know. Have no idea unless you're making us say something out loud like
Michorizo.
Michorizo.
Oh, chorizo. Oh, shit. All right.
Michorizo. Fucking shit, dude. This is Bart Simpson over here calling Moe's.
Man, hey. I don't know what to tell you about it, man. I never got mine stuck in my air filter, so good luck to you, though.
Never had chorizo stuck in his air filter.
Yeah.
Never had that.
No. That's the first time I said it out loud.
Me too. So Ian Van Dyke. Bighorn Kevin, in no way, shape, or form I could nearly lift the whole bike, LOL. So that is in reference to probably way up here.
No, go down. Go down. Go up.
Oh, Bighorn Kevin, there you go.
No, go up.
It's right here.
No. Exactly how much is considered a heavy bike? I have a CRF 250L, and its curb weight is 322 pounds.
Okay.
Well,
Then Bighorn says, Ian, does 322 pounds feel heavy to you? Then that's heavy. I would say 5 pounds would be considered heavy to me. So yeah, everybody's different. Honestly, like when I was playing around with the Street 500s, I was like, this is nice and easy, and I went to my bike and it felt heavy after a while. So that's
the hard thing about the CRF 250L is that it's got a high seat height. That's like a dual sport, it's a glorified dirt bike, but for the street.
Yeah.
So I mean that weight is distributed differently. If it's laying on its side, they all feel freaking heavy. So I don't know.
Yeah, if it's on its side, I had a video on how to pick it up where it's easy. Anybody can do it. But are you talking about when it comes to dropping it, or are you talking about when it comes to riding it? Because when it comes to riding it, once you start getting like past 5 miles per hour, it's going to stay up by itself for the most part.
Me
chorizo. fucking Dirty D's over here got us with that shit. Dirty D's.
That's funny.
Also, is it close to lift it off the kickstand? If it is, then that's heavy. So I mean, like, heavy bikes can be heavy. One thing that can help out, especially lifting it off the kickstand, is turning the handlebars towards the way you want to pick it up.
To the right.
Yep. So Benjamin says, thanks guys. I will try to loosen a bit more. I tend to overcompensate due to injury. That you guys rock. Yeah. When you try to overcompensate, you're compensating somewhere. So if your wrist is hurting, you're going to be putting too much stress on something else. So at some point, you're going to have to just drive a car. At some point, you're going to have to just take the bus or whatever it is, if that's your only mode of transportation. And if you can't do it and you have to ride the bike, then ride the bike, but be aware of that and then increase your space cushion between vehicles and understand that as a limitation. Now you're taking a higher risk, so now you're going to have to work with some different skills. So it's all changing on the fly, but definitely grip with the legs and relax. Grip with the legs, relax your upper body, because you're the passenger of the bike. The bike is the thing in control. You're the passenger of it, and if you put like a bad input where it's stiff, it's gonna be a fucked up thing. If you do nice, easy inputs, nice and smooth, it's gonna be a nice and smooth ride. That's just simple as that. So we talked about beginner motorcycles and stuff at the beginning of this, and we kind of came to the conclusion of basically it's like, what is it that you're using for? What fits you? Get some training. CCs and engine size does matter to a point. It really does, but the training can offset that. And one thing that, and I'm going to keep talking a little bit, is that in the MSF they talk about risk versus skill. So getting a higher CC bike is a high risk. So it's a higher risk, not high. It's just higher than normal. But if you get the skill to offset that, you should be fine. So if you get a bike and you don't have any skill and you don't take a class and you get something that's like it's a leader bike and you go out and try to ride on the road right away, that's a high risk. Zero skill, it could lead to something pretty dangerous. But if you get that leader bike and you go out to training, get some training classes under your belt, or you take it nice and easy, you offset that risk. That's how I look at it. Some people look at it in a different way, but that's my take on the beginner bike. Get some training, offset that risk that you're taking. Get a bike with that you like. Sit on a bunch. That's my take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you have like endless amounts of money and it doesn't matter, and then you could just, buy whatever you want and
Yeah.
go that route.
Yeah. If you have all the money in the world, just buy a bike that is every 100 cc's.
Yeah. Yeah, you buy a 250 and then a 500 and then a 750 and then 1,000 and then a 1,200.
You're going to be very disappointed if you do that all in cruisers or all in sport bikes, honestly. Mm-hmm. So I probably think the best of everything would be around 600 to 800 cc's, and then get one of every kind of bike, except for like some off-road stuff, because you don't want to have that heavy of a bike, so you probably get like a 250 or 400.
Yeah,
like that to me is. There's reasons to get a leader bike. There's a reasons to get a 1200 Sportster. There's a reason to get like a giant ass 117, Harley or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I have more fun on the 500.
Yeah, some of these smaller bikes are a blast. They're really, really fun. It's all what you're going to use it for.
Yeah. And I'm serious. I legit have more fun trying to push that bike to its limit than just like finally then instead of on my 1200 where I'm in third gear and I'm at the speed limit, I'm like, okay, I can't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's fair.
Yeah, so I'm like I'm having fun being active on the bike.
At that point, it'd be cool to have like a bike like that you could do a track day with.
Yeah.
And you could really go out there and test your limits, and you just use it specifically for track days. That'd be pretty neat to have.
And that was part of my point, is that once you get tired of your bike, let's say you have a cruiser or a sport bike, and you're like, I'm getting really tired of just riding it around, and maybe you're in a position where you can take a car to work or whatever, then turn it into a track bike.
Yeah.
Or take some classes with it.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
And you're going to have a newfound love for that bike.
Yeah.
And that's what's all important. That's what people feel like when they grow out of a bike. They feel like, I don't love this bike anymore. Well, get a newfound love in that. Try something different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Funny thing, Soupy, I tore my entire lower back in a ski accident in college. Best, this is good. Posture throughout your regular day. SNS armored vest and then snug and keep my back. All right. Yeah. So it was about, what about a twisted back? Yeah. Riding a motorcycle with a bad back is pretty shitty.
Yeah, but there's bikes that make you more comfortable. Like if you're on a super sport bike with a bad back, that probably sucks.
Oh yeah.
But if you're on a cruiser or touring bike, it's probably,
especially with a backrest.
Backrest and windshield. Windshield is huge. So if you don't have a windshield and you're constantly riding at 70 miles an hour, your entire body is trying to force itself to fight the wind.
It's like,
you know what I mean?
Hitting your ear.
And that crushes your back and your neck and everything. So you put a windshield on, you put a backrest on, and then you just sit back and chill and relax and go with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So guys, I hope you had a great time. This was a very fun after the ride. I actually thought we were gonna ride first, and I got all ready and everything, but this is after the ride. After the ride. So we're relaxing. So thank you, Vance and Hines. Thank you, was it Brother Moto for setting the hat. It's pretty nice. I like it. I need to start wearing hats. I'm bald.
Yeah, you're bald as shit.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna end the stream. And hopefully we answered some of your questions and we talked about what is a beginner motorcycle and had some good insights on that. If you like this kind of stuff, please share this. This is a great way to get some information. Matt knows a lot. I know something. you know, like one or two things, but he knows a
He
lot.
knows a lot too.
Yeah, I know. I like to make fun of myself and stuff. Anyways, remember, I'm coming from a position of an MSF rider coach and a 10-year veteran firefighter EMT. This guy used to be a firefighter EMT also,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very smart when it comes to motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
He's had one more motorcycle than I have, and he's super smart, super duper smart.
And I sell motorcycles.
And he sells motorcycles.
So if you guys want to buy a bike and you have questions regarding, like, I don't know what that stuff entails.
Yeah, because one of you guys asked
Let us know.
about trading in and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
that's something. So if you guys are looking for bikes, this is the guy to ask questions. Trust me, you want to know his stuff. So take a look at the description. There's a Motos with Matt link, and there's also a Dan and the Fireman link. But we're gonna be doing a lot of these types of podcasts, especially when it comes to motorcycles and honestly just hanging out and having some beers, having some good pizza Friday.
Pizza Friday.
But we're gonna head out. We're gonna do about an hour stream, and make sure to subscribe and share it. All right.
Yay.
Yay, guys! I'll see you guys later.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. It was a great stream, guys. Enjoyed it.
Keep it up.